So we're officially live. We're just waiting a few minutes, let everybody log in.
Yep, we're getting ready to share this out.
I did not know there was an actual World Tarot Day, but there
That's
is.
exciting.
Surprise!
And then not too soon after that is Madame Lenormand's birthday. So for all of our Lenormand readers, Madame Lenormand's birthday. And if I would have found out about that in enough time, I'm like, we should have had a birthday party in the store with all the Lenormand decks.
Oh, that would have been nice.
All the readers.
Well, now we know.
Yeah.
We have something for.
We know for next year. All right. Well, we've got a few people, so we'll get started. Just because there are so many things to do in the day. It's Sandy and Melissa.
Hi.
And Alex, one of our readers, tarot readers. And guess what? World Tarot Day is coming up on the 25th.
It is.
So
it's amazing.
That's just an excuse to go get more tarot decks, right?
Yeah, because you never have enough. Just ask Don.
That's true.
Okay. I mean,
I forget how many decks Don has.
I think he told me like at least 400.
I was going to say.
When you stopped at 4, it's like, oh.
In his bag at the most.
Like maybe in his like back pockets.
Right.
No, I'm sure if we were to tip him upside down and shake him, card decks would just fall out of his pockets.
Be great.
But since this is in celebration of World Tarot Day, feel free to ask questions. We will answer you live. Alexa, you've been reading tarot how long now? For forever.
But you're right. Formally for the shop, it's been 2 years. Informally before that, I picked up my first deck when I was 14. My dad actually got me my first tarot deck. And I had no idea what they were. I had no idea what these decks were. And it's still my favorite deck. It's the deck that they used in the James Bond movie, Live and Let Die.
Oh, how fun.
Very
and
cool.
They designed an entire tarot deck just for the movie. And my family has always been really big, James Bond fans. So, of course, I'm watching this movie going, Dad, what are those? He's like, I don't know. Let's find out.
Right.
So I got my first deck, and for the longest time, I didn't know what to do with them. I was always turning cards over and looking at them and lining them up in weird ways, but I didn't fully grasp what reading tarot was going to be or should be. Basically, until I kind of came more out of the broom closet, as I lovingly like to say, and started to discover that tarot is just a form of divination within the New Age community. So formally, 2 years, but I got my first deck almost 13 years ago.
And we won't do the whole and you're how old now?
Don't worry about it. I'm old enough.
Oh, old enough to know better, right? And to go to jail on your own.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Right.
But so yeah, your first deck, James Bond.
I love it.
Inspired, right?
James Bond inspired deck. It was the tarot reader in the movie was named Solitaire. And it's actually really cool because if you go back and watch the movie, the villain of that movie does give her a rather large chunk of the screen time and consults her as he's going up against Bond or as he's going up against certain things. And there are certain aspects of the cards she puts down that are true. At some point in time, she is asked by her employer, who's the villain, what is the outcome going to be if I go up against, Bond right now? And she flips over the Tower card. And it's literally for the tarot readers out there, we're like, that's right. Sucks to be you. You're not going to win. But it's one of those things of it was just a well thought out layer in a typical movie where mundane people would be just like, oh, this is kind of cool, whatever. But magic folk who could watch that were like, this is great. Someone thought this through. She's pulling cards out that are accurate. This is great. Love this.
Right. And
it wasn't just a prop. It was actually somebody paid respect to the tarot while they were incorporating it within the plot. And I've always appreciated that. But it's just a fun little deck, and I don't read with it anymore for people. It's my baby. It's one of those decks that after I started kind of buying more and more, I kind of decided like this is mine. This is my little baby that stays home with me.
Now, I know like some readers have a certain deck that they never read anybody else with because they want to keep it just for them.
Mhm.
It may not always be their first deck, but I mean, do you have another deck besides that one that is like you and only you touch it?
Yes, I actually my husband just got it for me, which I thought was really sweet. He found a little indie tarot deck, which is a whole other new aspect of tarot that I am fascinated by. All of the indie artists out there are starting to publish decks and show off their immense talent. And he got it for me as a surprise because I was doing so well with reading and so well with like this becoming a huge chunk of my life and my free time. So it's kind of like getting nice things once you've got the skill to know how to use them. But it is the let me see here. I'm trying to see where in my stash of what you can't see is that I've got about like 7 or 8 decks here on the table and another like 5 or 6 here stuck on the floor next to me. I look like Dawn right now with all of the decks around.
With all the cards, all the decks.
But decks like that, like there's a lot of mythology around tarot and the fact that like you have to be given your first deck. There are some practitioners that, sure, if that's the rule you want to follow, great, but you're going to be waiting around a long time if you want a tarot deck for someone to go buy you one.
Right, especially if your friends and family are of a belief that nobody should have them, that they're evil, that they're bad.
Right.
Of course they're not going to give you one.
So that kind of becomes a fun needle in the haystack for you to get yourself to owning tarot decks if you believe that you shouldn't buy yourself your first one. You should be given it. I personally don't believe that. I think if you want it, get it. If you look at a deck, if you keep walking by it in the shop and keep picking it up, and I've seen people do this, and it's really funny to watch. They'll make a lap around the store and they'll come back and they'll kind of pick up the same deck and look at it, and then they'll kind of put it down and they'll take another lap and then they'll come back and pick it up again. And it's usually about the second or third time they've picked the same deck up, they kind of go, okay. And you can hear their little wheels going, take it home. You want it. You've picked it up so many times. It wants to go home with you. And that's always been the metric I feel that any reader should use with any divination, really. Like, if it calls to you, if you're moved in a direction of like, man, I want that and I don't know why, go get it.
Yeah. Well, and that's always one of the myths that, I debunk here in the stores, that it has to be given by somebody. I'm like, no, you'll be waiting forever. So there was the question, like, what makes it official to officially start reading with tarot?
I guess for me, like, the definitive line in the sand was, I mean, you start reading for yourself, you start turning cards over for yourself. And there becomes a point where, as you're turning cards over for yourself, you suddenly hit a wall, but it's not a wall of, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's suddenly a wall of like, well, darn, there should be more. There should be more to this. And that's usually when you call your friends and say, hey, come over, let me read your tarot cards for you. And that's when you start flipping cards for other people. And then that slowly kind of pulls itself towards doing it for other people regularly. But honestly, if you own a deck and you turn a card over, congratulations, you're officially a tarot reader. There's not a lot of prestige around it because it's a divination tool. It is just a pictorial, visual representation of images and symbols and signs that your higher power, your higher spirit, and your intuition are meant to guide you to arrive at certain, thoughts or certain, places mentally. That's all it is. It's no different than if you went and bought a bag of runes or if you went and got a little pendulum and were scrying. Divination is divination, and everyone's got a little bit of a different flavor. So if you've got a tarot deck and you turn cards over and go, this is what this card means, congratulations, you're officially a tarot reader. It doesn't take, there's no certificate on my wall anywhere that says I'm a tarot reader, or there's no class you have to pass or anything like that. yeah, it's definitely give yourself permission. Just give yourself permission to do it. And that's really all it takes.
Now, so what would have been like, trying to think of all these questions I have running in my head, like all of these that I hear all day in the shop, and now my mind's going, bloop, more coffee would be required.
Insert coffee now.
Right. Now, so a lot of people will come in and, they want to start with like the writer, the ones that have like the definitions on the card. Makes it easy to where you don't have to interrupt that thought flow of being in that space to go pick out the little bitty book and read the very fine print.
Yes.
But of course, my first deck, and I didn't have it here, was the Dragon Tarot.
I have that deck.
Does not follow the rules of your regular Rider-Waite.
No.
So, made it kind of hard on myself. And maybe that's why I now go, when it comes to cards and reading them.
So I will tell you that is a fun nuance. I took a class at the shop with Don Schlick. It was basically like an intro to tarot, and I already knew most of the tarot. I just knew I would find people there I could talk to. So I'm like, I'm going to take a class so I can bump into community members and go, hey, let's talk tarot. Because you're not going to think I'm weird when I talk about this.
I see you have a deck of cards. I too
own a deck of cards. Yes, let's discuss. But I took Don's first class, and he teaches more of the traditional symbolism and more of the traditional imagery that you see in the deck of cards. There's a thick common vein that runs through that 9 times out of 10, if you turn, the Chariot card over, there's 2 horses. You turn the Strength card over, there's a cat or a lion or a monster of some kind getting its mouth closed. A lot of times, though, your deck might look different. Your deck might decide that that's not how it wants to be, perceived. For example, my lovely Strength card here in my Bond deck. There's no cat in this picture at all.
No, it's just a strong man.
It's just a strong. I mean, he looks resplendent in his leopard print, I must say.
And the beard is impressive.
That beard's a great beard. But so here I was in Dawn's class looking at this card while we're talking about the Strength card going, oh my God, this imagery is not here. I've got the wrong deck. I'm doing it wrong because this isn't here for me. And you have to get away from the idea that magic and divination and card reading, there aren't a lot of rules. There are actually fewer rules than you think there are. Because, again, looking at this deck, I love this deck. This is my favorite deck. And my Strength card doesn't look like the Rider-Waite learning deck that tells me this is what you should see when you look at this card. These are the images you should find. These are the common threads you'll see. Well, I didn't have that. And it was really discouraging. It absolutely, because then you felt like, oh man, I'm doing this whole magic thing wrong. Shush. But you have to give yourself permission to lean into your intuition. That is when your connection with your deck comes to play. Because sure, my lovely strong man here, he doesn't have a creature whose mouth he is closing. But you know what? He's got the animal print. All right. He's wearing the animal print. We're kind of in the cat territory. He's ripping this book apart. There's still that aspect of something that should be difficult to do, like closing the mouth of the beast or ripping a book in half, that's done easily. Okay. This card still works for that then. This card is still showing me those signs and those symbols and those commonalities for me to pick up on. So you have to be willing to kind of sit down with your deck and have 2 or 3 decks, because that's always another fun way to do. If you can have 2 or 3 decks in front of you and compare the same card across multiple decks, absolutely, you're going to see differences. But you're going to notice a trend, a theme. There's going to be something that says, yeah, these all kind of belong together. They're the same. They're trying to tell me the same thing. And that's the important part of tarot. It shouldn't be what the card means. It should be what's the card trying to tell you. Because you can draw the same card 3 days in a row, and it might have a completely different meaning every day. So it's kind of a blend between knowing your deck, knowing what the cards are roughly trying to say, but then also letting that little intuitive voice in your head guide you to say, hey, pay attention to this part. Don't look at that part. Look over here, actually. I want you to notice something different about it. And that's when the reading happens. That's when you actually read your card.
There's that one suggested way of learning to learn tarot is you pick a card, and then at the end of the day, you think about your day and how did the card apply to the day. I try to do that for all of the cards. I have 2 or 3 notebooks full of like a card a day. Didn't stick for me. But
okay, that's a very dedicated practice. That's something I'm ashamed to say. I have not actually completed a whole deck doing that either. But you have to decide, a lot of it plays into how you learn. Are you someone that likes to take notes and review notes and read books? Are you someone that likes to just pick up something and see if you can figure it out on the go? Mm-hmm. Most tarot decks that you get will come with either a little cute instructional paper booklet, or some of them actually come with really nice, like hardbound, solid little books that they come with. Mm-hmm. And those are great tools. Absolutely, your intuition should be the guiding force. But if you're someone that you want to spend the first several months checking the book out and trying to make yourself comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that says you're a bad reader or you're not, using your intuition properly. You're getting comfortable with a tool. Right. It's no different than, I got a sewing machine, and I read the instruction book every time I put my sewing machine together and used it, because I'm like, I don't want to mess it up. And it just takes practice and familiarity. And once you reach that familiarity, once you reach that point where you're turning cards over and you don't have to reach for the book, that's when your intuition kind of starts to speak louder, because it's ready for you to listen to it.
Well, and like Lori, another local reader, it's like you learn to trust your intuition and what spirit is trying to show you. Because for each person that you're doing a reading for, different aspects of the card's going to come out and might be slightly different. With a follow-up question of, how might you feel about the tarot apps that are out there?
So I have personal feelings and I have general feelings about magic and apps. There's a part of me that thinks it is super convenient that there are apps for pick a magical thing. I think it's like called CoStar. I have the astrology app on my phone, which is great because it has my entire natal chart and it's very convenient. I don't have to remember it. Those tools, apps for, divination, turning a card over and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. If you are not someone that can pull out a deck of cards and you have a 20-minute bus commute every morning and you need to pull a card up on your phone, okay, you're still looking at the image, you're still contemplating, what am I seeing, what am I absorbing? Like Melissa just said, what things on the card am I noticing for the first time? Like, oh, why is this standing out before when I've looked at this card dozens and dozens of times and not noticed that? So there's nothing fundamentally wrong. I have not met someone, and I would be hesitant to try to do a full reading for someone else using just an app. That, to me, there's something that kind of takes the connection.
Exactly. Yeah. You lose that connection with the person.
But if it's just something that you need to do just between you and spirit, like absolutely, whatever methodology you need to use there, because your higher power is going to find fun ways to make you pay attention to it. And it's going to speak differently to everyone. And if yours is, I am phone savvy, I'm tech savvy, I got this app, I'm good, then yeah, let your higher power know, hey, this is it. This is where I feel good. Talk to me through this. And you can still start noticing, coincidences, as, you laughingly start to call them. I would hesitate to do a reading for someone with one. But as far as like just a companion piece for yourself, I think technology is great. We are blazing into the next century, and we have come a long, long way with, we can do tarot readings. They're a completely different flavor. We can do Zoom tarot readings. We can do FaceTime tarot readings. Because of COVID, it forced that, that evolution in magic, in readers. We had covens getting together virtually for the first time, going, oh my God, we have to feel connected to each other while I'm looking at you on a screen. So they're great. I absolutely, and again, I still have some on my phone because again, I'm one of those lazy witches that's like, when's the moon full? Like, I don't know, let me look it up for you. Right here.
Yeah, ask me about my sleeping pattern. I can probably tell you when full and new moon's getting ready to pop up.
Right. I'm that way too.
Which I blame my shaman training, because it was never an issue until about the third or fourth time going through that training and really getting into it. I'm like, oh, damn this side effect.
Now I know without knowing, but I know.
Right.
So you don't need a lunar calendar. You just know twice a month I don't sleep for.
Yeah, 2-3 nights. So 6 nights a month. I'm a zombie. Oh, let's see. And again, speaking to like the different artwork, and there was the comment about, so maybe you don't need to memorize the cards.
Mm-mm.
And no, and that's what I gave up doing in learning. And I say that because I don't really read tarot. I have them because I love artwork on some of them, like the Shadowland, because it's very Tim Burton-esque. And I love that there's little bats. There we go.
The bats on the underside are so stinking cute.
They are adorable.
I love bats.
This deck is adorable. This deck has such fun, dark whimsy. I mean, the imagery she uses, the design she gets up with, like, it's a fun deck. I'm smitten with it. I think it's super cute.
Now, this artist, she has an oracle deck, because she lives up in Canada, and she has an oracle deck. And if you buy the oracle deck, but it's like an indie, so you have to get it from her. She donates, I think it's like $1 or $2 to like her local bat conservation society, and I'm like, I want one.
What? I do that.
Yeah,
We'll start saving and naming bats in honor of people.
That's
Yes.
right. But I guess when picking your deck and which ones you're reading, you got to be drawn to the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're never going to read the deck.
Correct.
It's going to sit and gather dust. So, people will come in and they're like, well, what's the best one to start with? And I'm like, that is such a loaded question.
Yeah.
It really is.
It depends on your aim. If you kind of want to use it as part of your spiritual and religious exploration, and you're keeping a grimoire or a book of shadows, and you're taking notes on things, and you're accumulating your religious and spiritual practice, absolutely, the Rider-Waite deck, that's a great place to start, because it gives you a good, concise bullet point for each card. And it's a good starting point. If you are somebody who needs to have that firm bedrock to then jump up off of. Whereas I was someone like what Melissa said, I walked by and went, oh, that's pretty. I want it. And that's what dictates what deck comes home with me, is I walk by it enough times and go, oh, like, I think the first time you got the Shadowland deck and I walked by and went, look at them bats. They're coming home with me now. They're mine.
Right.
All because it was cute. And it had nothing to do. And I've had great readings with this deck. I have had some powerful readings with this deck.
I mean, and just like, that magician card, the fact that like the table legs, one is a bone, one is like the severed leg of an animal. So right off the bat, it looks kind of cute, but if you really start picking apart, like, it's not as cute as it appears.
No.
Like, there's deeper, more hidden meaning going on in there.
I liken it to dark whimsy.
Yeah,
exactly what I was about to say.
Whimsical until you start looking further and getting into the more details that are on there.
Yeah.
Because it's a very colorful deck. It's not a deck you would expect to be based on the title and color.
Right. And like, I'm just now noticing, like, he's got 3 legs.
Yeah.
I'm like,
The little plants in the background all have faces on them.
yeah. So, and again, because I don't read tarot, I look at them because they're cute, and I maybe a day, a card a day or something. I'm more of an oracle fan just because I do like 3 to 5 and that's it. I don't, do much with the tarot. But I will say one of my favorite ones to use or seen people use is that transparent tarot, and the one that's by Emily Carding. Comes in a nice big old box.
I like my box.
Yeah, it's big box.
I also have that deck.
Because, and I love how like it stacks on top of one another. So you build like your own reading and card manual
Yes.
with these cards.
This is a great deck. I use this deck for anybody that comes to me and wants some sort of reading where there's a cross section between, oh, I want to know with, my home life versus my work life. Like, it's a type of deck, like Melissa said. And the other thing I like the fact that she does is she preps you for it because they are transparent cards. They are completely see-through. In the box, when you buy the set, it actually comes with a white cloth. So you can lay your cards on it and actually see what's going on in your deck of cards. Because like she said, you can stack them together and it becomes
like its own piece of art.
Right.
Yeah, it synthesizes it together in such a way for you to actually start seeing the connections between the cards and what those separate aspects actually do once they're entwined with yourself and within your life.
Right. And I get deeper within the meaning as you build upon.
And it's good because it's definitely a tarot deck, but there are times that I've had pretty good luck with also reading it almost like an oracle, because once you stack those images, you get this whole other, repertoire of images and colors and thoughts to look through. Which is the other thing I like about her deck too, is in her book she actually talks about different ways to put the cards down to get the different images together.
Oh, nice.
And I like that. I like that level of just like kind of make up your own, go with the flow. There was one she does, and it reminds me of the Fantod deck, where she just said, pick 6 or 7 cards and just kind of throw them all together and see where they land and look at them and see what lays together.
But you didn't have to keep your eyes closed and for them. And we're going to have to do a Fantod reading during like a psychic fair.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that deck is so cute. It's kind of an oracle deck, but not quite.
Right.
It's I don't even know what category, because it's not a Lenormand, it's not an oracle, it's not a tarot.
It just is.
It just is.
Its own little category in its own little messed up way of fun reading.
Roll the cards in the air. Close your eyes.
Don't bump into anything while you have your eyes closed while looking for said cards.
Well, now you are roaming around trying to find said cards, and heaven forbid, don't slip on them.
Right. But, one of the cool things that I thought about, that transparent tarot, because it is plastic, to be transparent. If you're somebody who likes reading at bars and restaurants and you're always worried about drinks or condensation getting on your cards, like, you have no worry with these things.
These can be cleaned so easily.
And I mean, in the artwork, like it's on there pretty well. I mean, lots of wiping and everything, and it's going to last.
Yeah. Like the way they're printed is high quality enough that you'd have to really scrub if you were going to try to lift up some of these images. But yeah, if you wanted to lay them all flat out on a table with a paper towel and give them a spritz of a kind of neutral cleaner and just wipe, this is definitely a deck that withstands that and is meant for that. Just because they're made of very decent plastic, but it's not chintzy plastic. It's not cheap.
Right. I was going to see if it would mention like the thickness or whatever, but it doesn't. At least not on the outside of the box. But I've always liked them because there's a couple other publishers that have transparent tarot, and they take the whole image and they shrink it down into one corner. So then as you're stacking your cards, you may end up covering one whole image with another. To where, now you've got to lift them up and try to move them and not ruin your stacking reading to see what it is that you just covered.
Yeah.
So, and again, so you go from an image like this big to something that's like this, and I'm like, no, that's why I like this one better, because you literally can stack and see and build a whole visual reading that way. But yeah. Let's see. Now, how many decks do you have in your collection?
Between 20 and 30.
That's it? Oh, you've got room for more. I see some empty space in the cabinets.
I mean, and the other thing I've discovered is that right when I first started hoarding decks, because once you start, again, it's the artwork. It's, that's a pretty deck. You'll have a friend that'll have a deck. And you're like, I need that too. Now I need it too. There for a while, when I would go to the shop and buy a deck, I would buy my husband something to be like, oh, look what I got you. Don't look at the other deck I just bought. And I actually bought him one of the little miniature decks. The miniature decks are so stinking cute. They're not as practical. Yes, the little Line Strider deck. It's so sweet. It's a cute little, and it's the same deck that the regular size tarot card is. It's just a little tiny guy. So I bought him that and went, look at this, and the artwork's beautiful, and it's little, so you can keep it in your office and have like art inspiration. He's like, cool. What else is in the bag? I'm like,
nothing.
You weren't supposed to ask that.
Don't worry about it. Look at the deck I got you, though. Look at what I got you.
Right. It's not about me. It's all about you. Have you ever like just smuggled it home and kind of set it on the shelf with the rest and like hope he didn't notice that there's a new
There have been a few. But I run into the problem is I'll eventually bring them down on the couch if I'm like taking notes or doing something, and then I'll get the glance over of like, have I seen that deck? Like, you totally have. Yep.
No, but yes, you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had this deck for years.
You never
totally
noticed anything.
As I'm peeling the price tag off the bottom, I had totally. Yeah, no, totally. It's you. I've had this for years. He's gotten it again. It's become it's a fun hobby. It becomes a hobby to collect beautiful decks because they're pieces of art and they're pieces of souls. Yeah, it's an addiction. It's especially when you start learning the artists behind the decks and you start reading why they made the decks, like the Shadowland deck with the cute little bats. When you read through her little booklet, she talks about her own struggle with mental health and coping with the tragedies and traumas of life, and how she wanted to design a deck that literally everyone would be able to relate to because everyone's gone through something. Everyone has gone through something bad enough and painful enough that these images and these thoughts and these colors are so easy to latch onto. And it's something like you could go your whole life and not know that about the deck, but when you learn those things about the decks, it makes them that much more special.
Right. Well, and I think it makes it a little more personal. Like when you know that story, like it
Yes,
almost makes the understanding of the artwork a little bit easier because now you know what's trying to be conveyed in a way. That's why, now that I know what she does with the bat conservation, like now I want to add the oracle.
Right.
Now that I know that.
right.
Yeah, but I'm also a sucker for bats, so it doesn't take much to lure me in when it comes to that.
Well, they are kind of cute.
They are. They're little sky puppies.
The rodent.
I love it.
I think one of the other things we should definitely touch on is that there are some decks out there that the artwork in them will get minimal. And what I mean by that is like so my Tarot of the Witches deck, my James Bond deck is a perfect example. Your 2 of coins is just 2 of the image of the symbol. That's it. And, the 10 of coins is the same thing, just with more stars. There are going to be decks you will buy where your numbered cards are like that. I have discovered there is an amazing methodology to teasing those apart. If you're someone that, have a deck like that and that's what you're like really into, but it doesn't give you that kind of rich tapestry image that some of the other artist decks will. There are common themes between, and this is where numerology ties into the tarot, there are commonalities between what 1s mean, 2s, 3s. You follow those commonalities and you start to get familiar with knowing, okay, 2s tend to be some sort of partnership, some sort of balance, some sort of union. And then in the back of your mind with the 4 suits here, okay, here's what the 4 suits are associated with. They're associated with, the 4 basic elements, earth, air, fire, water. They're associated with the 4 cardinal directions. They're associated with certain aspects of personality. And then you can easily take, a card that just has that number of that symbol on it and immediately understand, oh, okay, this is the 6 of Cups. Okay, well, here's what 6s mean. And I know that, here's what cups mean. And you can start to teach yourself to learn off of that as well. I know a lot of people I've seen when they have decks like that, they just it's like you hit a wall. You're like, oh, I don't know what this means because there's nothing on it.
Right.
I know when I first started learning, And I am by no means ready to pull out a card for anybody but myself at this point. But I had a cheat sheet and I would refer back because, like you said, once you understand the numbers to the symbols, that's where you're at. So then I'm like, let me look at Oracle instead. Because it was easier to me. And then I sat down with Don one day and he gave me the history of Lenormand cards. So now I want to learn that.
I know. Don makes everything sound like it's the same thing. I started with his tarot and then he pulls out a Lenormand deck and starts talking. I'm like, well shoot. Now I need all of those, Don. What else can you do? Like, what else do you have?
I almost thought about having Don on for tonight, and I'm like, but he is such a walking, living encyclopedia of cartomancy that I'm like, no, I need this to be like no more than an hour.
Right.
Don could easily fill up a lecture hall and do a 2.5-hour lecture, and you'd still have stuff you wouldn't get to, because that man is just a wealth of knowledge.
And I mean, and he is known to walk in, pull out a Lenormand deck, and you like use every card in an impromptu reading. And I'm just like, well, I guess I'm not doing anything for the next hour and a half while you do this impromptu reading for me,
right?
And see what's going on.
Well, that's the other thing that I liked about Don's style of teaching when he teaches tarot is the first thing he does tell you is throw the book out. Well, don't throw the book out, but don't cling to the book. You know, the book is great; it'll still be there. The other thing he reminds you is you can literally read with anything. You can read with playing cards, you can read with tarot cards, you can read with oracle cards. We will eventually get a deck of Cards Against Humanity, and Don will read with those because I think that would be hilarious. I got the little Rebel Oracle deck. Yeah, I love this little deck. I'm gonna, trigger warning, I'm gonna say bad words. It's the Oracle that gives 0 fucks, and I love that.
Yes.
So one of the last psychic fairs I was at, I usually have all my decks sitting out, and I usually ask my person there, which deck's talking loudest to you? Which one do you want to use? And I had just pulled this deck out. I hadn't even fully opened it all, and she goes, I like that one. I like unicorns. I'm like, oh, but you wanted a tarot reading. And she goes, well, can we? I was like, yeah, all right. Screw it. Let's see what happens. And I did an entire tarot style reading, but with, a deck that tells you to put the fucking phone down. And it was amazing. It was such an awesome reading to do, because it really I basically had to subconsciously go with my higher power and be like, all right, well, you've got my back on this one, right? Because here we go. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. So whatever deck you're drawn to, if you're drawn to multiple decks, if you're drawn to just playing cards, absolutely. Start turning those cards over, because again, it has to do with that connection between you and the deck and you and your higher power.
And learning to trust it, not second guess it. That's one thing in some of the psychic development classes that we do. And one thing that Jim will say a lot, it may not make sense to you, but it'll make sense to the client. So, maybe it's weird that the red robe is standing out, on one card and, something else, and it makes no sense, but you're going to just start talking about it and reading it through, and then they're going to go, oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things of you're going to discover your style of how your higher power, how it wants to come out of you. Last psychic fair was a great one. No, it's one of the last weekends I worked. I paired up the Wild Unknown Tarot deck with her Oracle deck and read them together. Super fun, by the way. I would recommend doing stuff like that when you can find decks that want to play together, because that's a whole other level of fun. And I'm flipping cards over for this girl, and all of a sudden I stop and go, what? Florida. Why is Florida here? She kind of looks at me funny. She goes, parent lives in Florida. It's like, there's something about Florida. She goes, yeah, actually they called a couple of nights ago and want me to move down there with them again. It's like, okay, great. Let's go with that then. But I got stuck on Florida, because as soon as I don't remember which card, but I flipped the card. I was like, oh, we gotta talk about Florida. I don't know what about Florida. And you have to tell yourself, you're going to sound like a crazy person. It's okay. Because again, the reading's not for you. Florida has nothing to do with me. I don't care about Florida. Not that it's not a lovely state. But I have no stake in Florida's race. But that urge to go, we got to talk about this. This is what's happening. This is what's coming up. Mm-hmm. That's your higher power. That's your intuition. And that's because that reading was for her. It was things she needed to hear. It was signs that she needed to latch onto. You basically just become the megaphone of which this stuff gets released into the world.
Just the vessel.
Yeah.
Just the microphone. Yeah. Let's see. So I think I need like more coffee.
I think we all do.
It's the evening. Wine.
Right. You got to be able to drive home.
That's true. That's the benefit of working. That's the benefit of doing live streams from your upstairs room. It's like,
you know, you're on. You definitely have us there.
Well, but what wine are you drinking?
I have been on a Boda Box kick because I'm one of those people that sometimes I can do a whole bottle of wine over 2 days, but sometimes like, man, I don't have that in me. I've been on a Pinot Grigio kick. I think it's legitimately because, and I sit next to my window here in my lovely little ritual room. The weather's warm. It's beautiful. It's nice. Like there's something just very satisfying about having a long day at work, pulling my fridge open and using an actual little pour spout to get myself an ice cold glass of wine and going, all right, I'm good. I got wine.
You don't have to rip the cork out.
No fighting with that.
Fight with it. I don't have to justify how much of a bottle I should drink in one sitting so it doesn't go to waste, because you can't let it sit too many days because then the wine will go bad in it. But you know, you don't want to be a lush and drink all of it in one sitting. But like,
I don't care about being a lush.
But what do I say about wine stoppers?
Yeah. So we got some new replenishments at wine stoppers from Alchemy England. You know, the little cats and the pentacles. And Sandy's like, yeah, wine stoppers are for quitters.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. That's why. Hey, that's why you got to do it with a friend.
Right.
If you've got a bottle of wine, it means you need a friend.
No, they also have to share.
We share well.
We do.
Well, it also increases your chances of your friend will also bring a bottle.
True.
Go, look what I have.
True.
We definitely have fun wine tasting.
Right.
By the bottle.
Like we still have a bottle around here somewhere for the next like live when we're a little more prepared and I'm not shoving people out the door at like 10 after
we
7.
Literally were, yes.
It's an apple wine. And it's like neon green. And at first I'm like, oh, is this absinthe? Like some sort of absinthe. But it's like, I think the brand's like Voodoo. And it's got like the sugar skull with the top hat on it. But it's like a neon green wine. And I'm like, and we're going to try that one next.
Yes.
So yeah, we try to do.
We'll definitely get that one going for our next one.
Yeah. So we try to.
Stay tuned for the poison green wine.
The poison green wine, yeah. I hope it tastes as good as I think it's going to.
I hope so too.
No, it'd be a shame if it wasn't. I know, and I hate that. I've bought bottles of wine like that. And again, it's the same logic I use with tarot decks. I walk by and go, ooh, pretty.
Right.
You know, not with as much like bubblefish kind of like mentality. It's more like, ooh, I must pick it up. Because usually the wines I like are very dark and brooding and they have, you know, skeletal trees and weird mystery shapes and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this bottle. And then I get it home like, well, this wine is absolutely atrocious. So
yes.
You know what?
Yes.
So now I have a $12 bottle.
Right.
That's really pretty.
With pretty artwork. Hooray.
That's where you got to get the glass cutter and turn it into a vase or something.
Yes.
Yes.
I've given up. Well, they have one by the Apothic line, the Apothic Brew. And now I can't find it. It's coffee and wine together.
I can't find it either.
I'm hoping it's fall like.
I think it is. I think it's seasonal. Because I've recently discovered their Merlot is stupid good. Like that's one of the few bottles and I'll usually open my bottles if I'm intended to champ it. I'll do it on a Friday because like I don't have to get up in the morning. Drink smarter, not harder.
Lori's going to find the Apothic Brew.
All right. Well, when you find it, Laura, we need 2, maybe 3 bottles.
Please,
we'll pay you 3 bottles, please.
We'll pay you.
That's the other thing I wanted to mention because I thought it was so cool. Somebody else in the shop that was making rounds, because usually if I'm in there reading, I usually stand in the back doorway of the room I'm allowed in, and I kind of haunt the doorway as I shuffle. Because I like to take my decks for a walk out in the shop. It's good for them. Keeps them aired out. Keeps them not. They don't get stagnant that way. And somebody had approached me and said that they were looking to get into tarot in their own hometown. Where would what would you recommend? And I just randomly was like, well, like find a local coffee shop, find a local tattoo shop, find somebody else that has their own small business, and say, hey, can I set up in a corner in your shop and offer readings for people while they're waiting for whatever? She messaged me a couple of days ago, and she's actually doing that. She's got a friend who owns their own tattoo shop, and she set up on a Saturday when he was really busy and did tarot readings for people while they were waiting. Or if the guy had a promotion, like if you spent so much on a tattoo, you got a percentage off of her reading or something like that. And the guy's like, yeah, you'll come back next weekend. This was great. And I was just so tickled to death of like, oh, good. I'm glad that my advice actually worked for someone. I didn't just steer this poor girl
Just didn't send her in the wrong direction.
She didn't come back all beaten down, like, oh, they all said no.
But you said. But yeah, that's another thing of like, I always run into people that read cards for themselves. And they're like, well, where do I get started? How do I do, network? Get yourself out there. There are so many shops and bars and restaurants and owners out there that love a good collaboration. Mm-hmm. And finding those people and learning to network with those people and getting yourself out there. And honestly, start small. Just start posting on your social medias and stuff like that is another great way to not advertise yourself, but basically it's kind of an if you build it, they will come. If you say, here's something that I can do. Within the last year that I've been more open on my social media about what I did, because for the longest time I was in the broom closet. I didn't talk about witchcraft, didn't talk about magic. It was not super safe. Not safe, but like small Baptist town. You didn't talk about that. It wasn't until I came out of the broom closet and started posting more. I had people randomly that I hadn't spoken to in years shooting me messages going, hey, can you do a reading for me? I didn't know you read cards. Do this for me. All because I was willing to go, here's what I do.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Here's my magic trick.
Well, and word of mouth does a lot.
It does
too. So, you start reading for some people, they like you, they start telling their friends, their family, kind of snowballs. But like you had been coming into the store for ever. And it wasn't until Dawn was like, you've got to do her read, let her interview, let her interview.
Because I was a patron of the shop first, because your inventory is always choice. And again, I took the class because I wanted to meet people. I wanted to meet community members of people that I could talk weird magic witchy shit with. And they'd be like, yeah, me too. Because it's really awkward when you do that with a group of people and they go, oh, you're one of those people. Okay.
Okay. They're continuously step back.
Right. And like, I'll leave before you light the bonfire. It's fine. I'll go. And then, yeah, like I had taken it almost been like a whole year, I think, that we just kept getting together as a group to go over. We'd go over a couple cards, and then we would pull out all the new decks we had all bought and oh my God, look at my deck and look at okay, do a couple for me and do a couple for her. And yeah, Dawn basically looked at me and went, I can't do the next couple psychic fairs, but Alexa's got it though. She'll read. It's like, yeah, I will. That's right. Yeah, I can do it. Like, yes, I will. Oh my God, how I can't be taking this serious. Oh my God. And then of course, and I love that you do that too, because to read in the shop, Melissa vets you in. You actually have to do a reading, or you have to actually interact with Melissa to be able to prove.
And everybody says that this is so like nerve-wracking.
That's what I have heard from everybody that reads like, here. That
why
the Melissa test is like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. They panic.
There's something very intimate. And I'm usually like a confident boss bitch kind of energy, but then Dawn's like, yeah, Melissa will vet you in. You'll have to read for her. I'm like, she's gonna eat me alive. Oh God, I'll never be able to show my face in the store again. Oh no, like. And again, it's that imposter syndrome almost. Yeah, it's like an audition. You have to get up and do your song and dance and promotion and go, here's what I do. But it was great. Like, it was absolutely super fun to find a community of people that I could finally talk tarot and witch and magic stuff with and it not be abnormal.
Mhm.
Because that's the other thing I really enjoy about the shop is the fact that it's not really a hub for a community, but it's definitely it's an easy place to find people, to brush shoulders with people, because you are always offering classes and workshops and get-togethers and stuff like that. Like, whatever you're interested in, you can find someone in there that's also interested with, that wants to go like, yeah, let's get together later. We have to talk.
Yeah, and now that, COVID and all that's, getting ready to ease up,
Right.
like the classes and stuff are getting ready to, be even more often and more abundant. So I'm like, oh, my year and a half of like, I get to go home at closing is coming to an end.
Screeching halt here fairly
Right,
soon.
right.
I had that realization when they're like, oh, it's going to be good. Okay, that's what my Band-Aid is. I got my second one. I'm good. But I also work in a doctor's office. So for me, it's like, this is important. I don't want to pick up germs. I had the horrid realization like, oh no, if everything goes back to normal, I don't have an excuse as to why I can't go home and see people I don't want to see. Because COVID was a great excuse. Like, oh, I can't, COVID. I don't want to get you sick. I'll stay home.
Right. Right.
Not that I just don't want to go out in public and be social and be an adult.
Well, I mean, I always, before COVID, like my standing joke, not joke, was back up 3 feet. Like, you don't need to be that close to me, and I'm not a hugger. I'm not a big touchy person. So here comes COVID, and they're like, no, stand 6 feet apart. And I'm like, yes,
Even better.
yes.
No, I sit at the front desk of my doctor's office, and I've got my desk, the little raised window, the little glass door that I get to slide open to see people. I cannot tell you how many people will lean so far into it. It's like, I can't move my computer. Your face is right here.
Right.
Back up. Like, I threatened there for a while. I don't know if you guys remember, like, when the fire department, stuff like that, used to give out those yardsticks and stuff like that.
Yeah, just poke them back.
Yeah. I was like, I need to find one. So like, back it up. There you go. There you go.
Other
Like,
side of the glass, please.
I even put a red square down for people to stand in. It didn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Well, I also think that's another fun thing about COVID and stuff like that, is it forced practitioners of all sorts of different arts to adapt and start to evolve in different ways. For example, the first thing I thought of when it's like, you can't touch or be near one, what are all the Reiki practitioners going to do?
Mm-hmm.
If cats would stay in the square, they would. My cat would. She's a boss. But my first thought was, what are the Reiki readers going to do? What are the healers going to do that actually lay hands on their clients?
Right.
I'm used to tarot readings where I hand you the deck and you shuffle it for me and then hand it back to me. Well, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't get that kind of interaction with you in the deck for you to kind of come and zone in with me here.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, COVID's been really interesting like that, to see how different practitioners have evolved and adapted in circumstances like this.
A learning curve, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most of the energy healing work, they have way of doing distance healing and distant work. But then I found myself, like the shamanic program that I help coordinate and teach, like a lot of that was done this past year all through Zoom. And I'm like, nope. And they're like, you never log in for class. And I'm like, nope. There is so much that is done like in person in the feeling. And yes, but I'm like, there's just things that need to be done.
It just doesn't translate.
Right.
Right.
But, so many other people still loved it, and that's completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, mm-mm.
Well, yeah, because it's a double-edged sword, because for a lot of people, it made it more accessible. Because if you can't commit to getting yourself in person somewhere, say, because of your work schedule or because of where you live,
Right.
Absolutely. Online has been a great tool for people to start connecting to aspects of their life they've been wanting. But I do agree that there's a certain level of magic or practitioner that you have to be able to be with that person. You have to be able to want to touch them. Because I'm a touchy person. I have no personal boundaries, and I don't think you have personal boundaries.
I mean, remember Stuart from Matt TV where he'd be like, eh.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's her.
Don't touch it.
Yeah.
I'll catch her every once in a while. I'll walk by her and and she's like, ew, don't touch me.
Well, I got a couple of customers, they're sisters, and they're lovingly referred to as the crazy sisters, and they know that I call them that. And they are like my elderly lady goals, along with Hawaiian grandma.
Oh, awesome.
Because they just get in the car and they just road trip. But they, knowing my, I guess, aversion to like just the random hugs and everything else, they have made it a game that if they're in here and if I am outside of the register area, I am fair game for them to just come up and just hug me. You know? But the register area, so,
safe space.
And they're like,
That's home base.
That's home base. And if I come out, you know, then I'm fair game. And because there's only the one way in, like they will purposely stand there, and I'm like, I will hop this counter, like just
jumping over.
Yes, being held hostage at the register.
Oh, well, good. So Sarah says, this stream really made me want to get back into tarot. This whole stream, I've been looking for my tarot book, and it's nowhere to be found. Well, good. At least you found your deck, though.
Sarah, good. That is a sign to go get more decks. Because clearly the one you're looking for isn't ready to be found, or you've already learned everything from that book that you can, and that's your higher power's way of going, broaden your horizons. There's more out there. Go find it.
Yeah, because I mean, and we've just got tons more of like tarot books on like tarot and spell casting together, different ways of reading tarot, different tarot spreads. I mean, you can create your own spread, right? Somebody had to create that Celtic cross to start with it. And
I love making up my own spreads.
Right. Because I said so. That's why that card right there means this. Because I fucking said so.
One of the more kind of homebrewed spreads that I found online that I absolutely love. It's a what the fuck spread. And it literally is a spread that the first card is what? Okay, what is it? Second card is the fuck. Like the obstacle. Then it's the exclamation point, and then it's the question mark of that whole sentence. And it's what the fuck? It's like, this is a great spread.
I like it.
I would so many levels.
Mike Berta, Dr. Mystical, like a couple years ago, no, maybe many years ago. I have no concept of time. He was doing the unfuck yourself spreads. Like, here's how you're fucked up. Here's how you got to be fucked up. Here's what you need to do to unfuck yourself and, you know, going forward. And I'm like, I like that spread.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like your higher power, depending on the kind of relationship you have with it, like again, and that's the other reason I also don't read for anybody else with my James Bond deck anymore. I got to the point with my deck that my deck got kind of an attitude. She's a smart ass.
Yes.
Because I would ask a question, think I'm going to get all introspective here. And I'd flip cards over and I'd go, well, no shit. Shuffle them again. It's like,
using trouble, girl.
Damn it. It was because I had gotten so comfortable with this deck and its connection with me and my higher power that it's literally like having a Riley older sister going, it sucks to be you. It's like, thanks. So whatever relationship you have with your higher power, it's such a fun space. It's such a fun space to play in.
Well, let's see. Oh, it's already after 8:15.
Wow. That
went by quick.
8:15, have more wine time.
Right?
Yeah.
Drink it. So, but in coming up soon, what is it? On May 27th is Madame Lenormand's birthday. So we'll be putting something out for Madame Lenormand with Dr. Mystical because he just put out his own deck, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Of the Haunted Path, I believe it's called.
That sounds right. I peeked at it when it first got
here. I probably shouldn't show it first before I actually have him on, but comes in a cute
we'll just sneak peek the tin.
Oh, it's adorable.
Yes. So we're working on how to get out of there.
Just show them the back. Let your note.
But here's the back, Lenormand of the Haunted Path. And then like here's one card, like the sun. So there'll be an episode coming up on Lenormand in time for Madame Lenormand's birthday.
How many of those decks you got at the shop for sale?
Working on it.
Okay, because I'm gonna want one.
That's a secret.
Yeah,
they're not here.
But yeah, he's got plenty to do, you know,
Oh, those are fun.
So, but he also put out his own like divination dice, the steampunk dice, and
Mhm.
Yes,
So
those I have.
he's a creative sort. So
I do have his dice.
keep an eye out for that. That will be coming. But yeah, thanks guys for
Okay.
joining us.
Yeah.
And
The
if
next
you have-
psychic fair's on the 30th, right?
Yep,
It is.
last Sunday of every month, except December. We kind of take December off because I think by then everybody's just burned out. And between holidays, money, peopling, like, yes. Oh, and good point, Lori. Like the Labyrinth tarot deck is getting ready to come out too. So there's that one. There's a Disney Villains tarot deck set to be coming out.
Oh boy.
So there's a lot of new.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Disney villains, Emma Stone is going to star in the new Cruella de Vil movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Live action Cruella. She is my favorite villainess, so I'm very pumped for that.
Nice. I've always been I was a Maleficent fan before it was cool to like Maleficent.
Yeah.
Nice. OG Maleficent.
You know,
I used to imitate Cruella to my kids, especially when we were driving and they got a blast. We would kind of zigzag the car. I'd lay on the horn and be like, "Puppies," and my kids in the back. Whipped around. I had boys. They thought it was fun.
They are a fun sort, those boys, and then they grow up, and then you want to strangle them.
That is true. At least 14 times a day,
Yes.
even as adults. Doesn't end.
But thanks for joining us, everybody. And if you want to book a reading with Alexa, here's the link. She's in the store a couple times a month. So yeah, tarot and gemstone penises.
Yeah, I know. We didn't even talk about the little dicks.
No, we might have to make that its own little
My
thing again,
boys.
right?
Yeah, I am on Melissa's website. I am on Instagram under Reevesy Witch and Nexus Tarot. So come find me, shoot me questions or anything like that. And yeah, I will be at the next psychic fair. Because I of course need to buy. I haven't bought another deck in a while. I'm kind of getting the itch. I'm kind of looking around going,
There were some new decks that came in too.
I haven't purchased anything in a while.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
you're due. You're due. There's some new ones.
There's always new decks coming in.
I know. And the ones that catch my eye, of course, are all the Green Witch and all the herbal ones.
Mhm.
I'm like, was that here before, or is it just here now?
Just
Darn
here for
it.
you.
Yes. So,
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
yeah.
And
Thanks for sticking around with us.
And stop in and see us or send a message if there's something that you need to ask or want some help with. Any of us,
Yeah.
we'll direct it to the
We'll
right
be-
person if need be.
That's right.
And thanks, Lori. We got to get Lori on the live too. Lori's another local.
I know. And she's always got a wealth of questions too. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Nice.
See ya.